Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining first of all, registering for our webinar and then joining us for our session today. My name is Megha and I'm the product expert here at Manage Engine. So today's topic is about protecting your identities with an automated HR-driven IAM strategy. Basically, in today's session, we are going to talk about how or why it is important to unify your Active Directory and HRMS for a seamless employee lifecycle management. Now, we have introduced this webinar in the light of a recent release from one of our products. I will be talking about the use cases, and then in the second half of the session, we will be introducing you to one of our products. It's called Manage Engine AD Manager Plus. It is our Active Directory management and reporting solution. So if you're not familiar with the tool, I will give you an introduction about the tool a little bit later. But let's talk data first. Let's talk use cases first, right? So before I proceed with the session, allow me to let you know that. So if you have any questions, please make use of the questions pane right there and do ask any questions that you may have regarding the product that we're going to talk about, regarding the topic as such, right? So I hope you can completely see the screen and hear me fine. If you have any issues, please do let me know using the questions pane there, right? So I have put out a normal scenario here which happens regularly in a day-to-day organization. For example, the IT department and the HR department has to work in tandem to sort of make this user provisioning and deprovisioning happen. Now, in a regular scenario, in a conventional setting, the HR is getting to know that a bunch of new hires are joining the organization on a Monday morning, right? And typically, what happens is the IT administrator is getting a huge Excel sheet with a list of users, say 50 to 100 users on a Friday evening, and then he is asked to just provision accounts for all of those users in all the platforms. Like for example, if your organization is using Office 365 or G Suite or Exchange, so he has to be provisioned. These users have to be created accounts in all of these platforms, right? So he's typically receiving this kind of Excel sheet, and he has to go ahead and then provision accounts for all these employees. Either he's resorting to Active Directory users and Computers Console, he's manually doing it, or he's resorting to PowerShell script and then doing it. So once that is taken care for Active Directory, then he has to go to the Office 365 Admin Center and then provision the accounts. Repeat this process for all the platforms that you might be using in your organization, right? Now, today's session, we're going to talk about, can this dependency be removed as a whole? Does it have to be in such a way that the HR is sending all the details to the IT administrator, and the IT administrator, you as an IT administrator, is provisioning all of these accounts one by one, or there could be a delay in this process as well, right? Because he has to wait for another team to send the details, and then he has to provision accounts. Now, can this any way be eliminated, right? So that's what today's session is going to be about. Right. So before I even jump into the session, let's talk data, right? Because data speaks volumes. So this is the data I got from the Insider Threat Report 2019. Now, again, when cybersecurity experts talk about data breaches, normally the focus is on external threats, a data breach from a malicious outsider who's trying to access your account, who's trying to get into your network, who could be already in your network and exfiltrating data as we speak. But most of the times, the organizations are slowly becoming aware of the fact that, a data breach or a leak could be because of something, internal. Right. So here, this is the survey that was sent for to all the organizations, and a substantial amount of organizations. And then here, the data says that 71% of the time, the data breach is caused because of accidental data breach. Right. And here, 65% of the time, they're worried that a data breach is because of, some negligent activities. Right? That's pretty scary. Now, when you, as a privileged IT admin, or when your employees are causing this kind of contributing to the data breaches, it doesn't sit well, right? So then you need to factor in both the insider threats as well as the external threats when you are sort of developing, or when you're working on your infrastructure and protecting your infrastructure, right? I have one more interesting data. So what type of insiders pose the biggest security risk to organization? And 62% of the time, it's privileged IT users or admins. This isn't good news, right? So then let's start at the beginning. Now, how can we prevent this at the beginning, right? Let's start with a simple process of user management, say from creating users, modifying users, and then most importantly, which we tend to ignore, is deprovisioning users. Now that we have established this, let's proceed to today's session and what are going to be our key takeaways. One, we're going to see how you can accelerate the employee onboarding process. Second, how you can mitigate a potential compromise of ex-employee's account. So this is the one that I said earlier. The most important thing that we tend to ignore is deprovisioning accounts, or removing the privileges of all the employees or former employees, and then just making sure that that account is not a potential entry point for any hacker or for any other malicious insider to kind of um, uh, make use of, right? Second thing is, whatever changes that is happening within your organization with respect to users movement, users being transferred, users being promoted, or they move to another department, how do we sync those updates with your HR and your AD? Second, each of you belong to a different organization, and each of you would have a different organization policy. Now, users belonging to this department in this organization in this region will have a certain policies. Similarly, this applies for every region. If your organization is spread across multiple regions, multiple divisions, then what do you do? Do you have like a standardized policy to do that, like a standard checklist for that? How do you do that if that's not the case? And most importantly, keeping your stakeholders informed. Whoever is when users are being recruited into a team, they are being modified, they're being promoted, the data attributes are being altered. Is everybody aware of this? Is everybody informed? And how do you do so in real time? And the last important thing, which encompasses all of this, is eliminating dependency on external teams, and in this case, the HR team, right? So let's talk about each of these use cases, right? So accelerate the employee onboarding process. Now, how does the HR? So this is I'm going to be reiterating the point that I mentioned earlier. So how does an HR department notify IT admins when new employees join an organization? In most cases, the HR manager will export the user details in a CSV file. Now he would be using an HRMS application, where he enters all of those details, and he would export those details and then will share it with the IT team via email, right? So again, like I mentioned, so this is going to be a process which is sort of redundant and it can be eliminated. Now, what can you do about this? What is the workaround for this? Automating user provisioning will eliminate time-consuming operations like this. So when such a task can be automated, you as an IT administrator can free up a lot of time is going to be associated to this, and you can use that time instead to deal with other mission critical tasks. So how do you do that? You can integrate your Active Directory with your HRMS application or your database. Now, like I said in the beginning, I will be listing these use cases, and we will go one by one in these use cases in the second half of the session, where I'll be showing you where you can do that using the product that I mentioned, right? Mitigating potential compromise of ex-employee accounts. So dormant accounts can go unnoticed for a really long time, be it users, IT admins tend to believe that, okay, this can be taken care of later. I will do this later, or this need not be addressed at this point. Some sort of belief that, all right, so the employees have left the organization, all right, so we need not worry about these accounts, right? Because we have other important tasks which are associated to actual users who are within the organization. So these gets tend to be pushed to the back of your mind, and those are just lying there, which could be weight, which could be your potential entry points, right? So it's very important to remove these accounts from systems, to eliminate potential attacks from aggravated ex-employees, your employees who might have left the organization, and who are not satisfied with how things were, and also malicious insiders who could be using these accounts to gain entry into your accounts and manipulate your data. Now again, every time you're integrating with these HRMS applications with your Active Directory, when you do so, when the HR is disabling those accounts or removing those accounts, or you are sort of the HR is making sure that these accounts data does not exist in the HRMS application, the same gets translated to AD. This can be done by integrating your Active Directory with your HRMS. So first thing that, see, you as an organization might have a different deprovisioning policy, right? First, you might move those users to a different OU, remove them from all their groups that they are part of, remove their licenses. So this follows a proper structure, and all of this has to be executed ASAP, because we do not want any of these access rights to be misused, right? So all these processes need to happen as soon as possible, as soon as these employees leave the organization. And that's going to be really, really easy if you don't manually have to go ahead and do that. Instead, just leave it to a tool. It's going to take care of that for you. And then, you can just make sure that, all your accounts of ex-employees are just dummy accounts, and they just disable, and they do not have any privileges, and they just exist there as a record, and that's about it, right? So moving on to the next one, synchronize updates in HR system. So now, when roles and responsibilities of employees change, the IT admin has to modify the properties of their accounts, add them to relevant groups, move them to another OU, and so on, right? Now, these changes, right? Maybe there could be requests for accessing group memberships, accessing file server, changes in file server permissions, and so on. So all of these sort of determine an employee's access to relevant resources, and these have to be addressed right away, right? Or there could be n number of help desk requests that has just that seems to be increasing and never seems to go down, because these kind of changes happen within an organization quite often, right? So you would be addressing these tickets one after the other. Now just imagine a scenario where you do not have to do any of that, whereas a tool is going to take care of that for you, right? Anytime a department of a user is altered, then all the corresponding attributes would be changed. For example, the groups would be automatically changed, the reporting to field, the manager would be changed, the file server permissions would be changed, his contact attributes, his location, his address, his phone number, his look seat location, all of that will be automatically changed. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah. So how do you do that? Again, I'm coming back to the same answer. You can synchronize your HRMS application, or even better, we have a different way of doing it, which I will come to in the second half of the session. And the topic that we're going to be dealing about is called templates. So in templates, you can go ahead and then, perform these actions, or sort of configure these policies. And every time one attribute, for example, a designation or a department or a location is changed, then all the corresponding attributes along with that will get changed too. So we will be talking about that, and I'll be showing you a quick demo of that in a while as well. Right, so this is what I was talking about. Every business will have its standard policies, right? So user belonging to this department will have these access rights. He will be allowed to access these file servers. He will be part of these groups. Does it have to apply to all the users? No. Again, depending on the hierarchy, depending on the nature of the job, each user will have certain privileges, right? So how do you define that? Now, when you're resorting to a manual way of doing it, and when there are a number of IT admins within your organization, it's going to be a little chaotic, because there could be consistencies where users, you could be following, an IT admin A could be following a certain set of processes, a certain ways of doing it. IT admin B could be doing it in a different way. IT admin C could be doing it in a different way. And we are talking about n number of users, right? So you're going to be doing that for a lot of users, and a lot of IT admins are going to be processing these requests. Inconsistencies will tend to arise, errors will tend to creep in, right? In such a scenario, again, the answer lies in templates. Again, coming back to the same point that we discussed in the earlier templates, it's going to solve that for you. So whether by creating in user creation or in user modification, templates is going to play a huge role. Again, I will show you how you can do that in user creation as well as user modification. Right. Most important thing, if you have completely no visibility into what is happening with your users, whether their privileges are being modified, their data, their properties are being uh, added, they're removed, their access rights are granted or revoked, whatever, we want to know what is happening. So if you're using traditional native IT tools, it's going to be really difficult to track all these changes, right? How are you going to do that? Are you going to keep track of every change that's happening in your native environment, and then just send an email to every user or every manager? That's going to be very tricky, right? So how about a scenario where a change happens? For example, a user is being added to a new team, like he's recruited to a new team, and instantly the team's manager, the IT head, and the HR manager is getting an an email, a real-time email or an SMS alerting them saying that, hey, a new user has joined this department, and this is the user's name. He will be reporting to such and such a person, and this is his joining date, right? How easy does that sound, right? So this is how uh, we're going to make sure that every action, every management action is being tracked, as everybody is involved, and you get real-time alerts of what is happening in your organization without you have going and manually checking what's happening with the team or within the organization. So right. So I have been talking about AD Manager Plus. Here and there, I have mentioned a few words like templates. I have mentioned a few words like integrating your AD with HRMS application. Now let me introduce you to the tool finally. Now, what is AD Manager Plus? So AD Manager Plus is Manage Engines management, Active Directory management, and reporting tool. Not just for Active Directory management, but we also support provisioning and management for Office 365, Exchange, Skype for Business, and G Suite. So we have management and reporting capabilities for all these platforms, meaning you do not have to go to each of these individual platforms when it comes to user lifecycle management, right? One console, it's going to take care of all these actions, one window, and that's going to simplify your task, and it's going to make your task even more easier, because no multiple consoles to juggle with. There is no need for checking data in one console and then correspondingly update the change in the other one. One single tool, it's going to sync across all these platforms, right? And the second thing is we offer reports, 200 plus reports and counting, in all these platforms, be it AD objects, Office 365 licenses, your file servers, your G Suite, your Exchange properties, all of that. We have reports which are being added with each and every release. We try to make our reporting and management features for all these platforms bigger and better than before. Fourth point being automating critical AD routines, which is the core of today's topic. We're going to see how you can automate these actions. We're specifically going to talk about user creation, user modification, and user deprovisioning. So that's going to be the core of today's topic. And moving on to the next point, delegating AD actions to technicians securely, right? Now, when you are tasked with a several set of actions, you would want to give certain actions away, certain tickets away to certain other users to sort of reduce load on you, and also to make sure that there are no users who are waiting for their requests to be addressed. So what's the solution? You kind of delegate certain privileges. Is that a good idea? It is a good idea, but how are you going about doing it? If you're going to use native 80 to use that, to do that, it's going to be very tricky. The delegation wizard in 80 is not exactly flexible. You cannot delegate permissions granularly, but using 80 Manager Plus, you can go ahead and perform this very specific granular delegation where you can sort of give very specific privileges. Say a user, a technician, or an IT admin in this case can just create users. IT admin B can just reset password. IT admin C can just view certain reports. So this is how we make sure that their privileges are very specific to their role, and their native privileges are going to be untouched. So whatever actions or whatever you're going to delegate to them using AD Manager Plus, that is just specific to their AD Manager Plus credentials only, and not their native AD permissions. That is not touched. And coming to the fifth point, coming to the last point, and um, streamline and monitor AD task using a review approval mechanism, right? So I see that we have a question here, so mostly I try to read out the question and then answer it, so that it would benefit the other users as well. So the question is, just wanted to check, if we integrate AD Manager Plus with Office 365, can we also automate Office 365 distribution lists and mail flow rule? I will be showing how you can do that in the tool. So AD Manager Plus, Office 365, G Suite, Skype for Business, and Exchange Management Console. You can integrate all of this in one platform, which is the AD Manager Plus platform. And as of automation with respect to Office 365, as of now, we support Office 365 license management alone. We do not support distribution list and mail flow rule as of now, but I will show you how you can sort of make this easier. I will be answering your question personally after the session. So thank you so much. Let me move on to the next point that I was talking about. Right, streamline and monitor AD task using approval workflow. Now, every time a management action is carried out, you want to make sure that it goes through a sort of, a review and a validation process, where you as an IT administrator don't execute it immediately. Instead, the request is sent to certain users. For example, the team's manager needs to approve when a user, let's say I'm a regular user and I want to access something. So my request is being forwarded to my manager, and then he takes a look at it, and if he finds that it's all good, it's safe, and it has a proper reason because my task or my project needs that kind of access, then he will go ahead and approve that request. Then the request will be sent to maybe another user, maybe his manager, let's say if it's of a critical nature, and then only if he approves, then it's being sent to the IT administrator for execution, right? So similarly, you can sort of customize this based on the nature of the request. You can customize who are all going to be involved in this review mechanism. Is it going to be one user, two, or five even? Because we support up to 5 reviewers and 5 approvers. Right. So this is to make sure that every action that is being carried out is validated, it's authorized, and there are no undesired actions that is happening within your Active Directory infrastructure. Right. So that's a little bit of a very brief introduction about AD Manager Plus. Let me quickly talk about the 3 features that we will be focusing on today. So by integration of AD Manager Plus with the HRMS applications, the administrators can automatically create, modify, and delete users, right? So whatever changes that is going to happen in your HRMS application, it's going to be automatically picked up by the AD Manager Plus tool, and those actions will be carried out here instantly, right? Right, so these are the list of HRMS tools supported in AD Manager Plus. Altipro, if you're using Altipro, you can integrate it with AD Manager Plus. Bamboo HR, Zoho People is our in-house product, HRMS application developed in Zoho. And never fear, let's say if you're using some other HRMS tools, and we also integrate with Workday as well, and I forgot to mention that. Right. Now, if you are using HRMS application and if it has MS SQL or Oracle as its database, then you can integrate with that as well. So we have the capability of integrating your databases, specifically MS SQL and Oracle, with AD Manager Plus. Right. So if your HRMS, the one that you're using is not on the list, but they are using one of these databases, then you can do that. Right. This is a simple example of how, just a diagrammatic example of how the integration works. As you can see, we'll start off from the left side. The HR technician is creating a user. It's being entered in any of these applications. So this is the HRMS application, and he's entering all these details here. The data is shared to AD Manager Plus. The automation feature in AD Manager Plus will sort of check if so let me explain why you need this check mechanism here. Now, for user creation, it's pretty simple, right? Straightforward. New users are being onboarded. AD Manager Plus will automatically detect that new users are being added to the HRMS application and will create those users. Now, when users are being modified, that's the tricky part. Users will be added to a different department. Users' properties will change. Then you want to make sure that there is no duplication of data, right? Even let's say when you are adding a new user to a database or adding a new user to an HRMS application, if you're going to set an automation which is going to run every day, but you want to make sure that the new users are not being duplicated and created in AD. You want to make sure that there is a proper mechanism which will sort of validate the previous automation that you ran, and to check if any of these users have been already provisioned earlier, and if not, then we go ahead and create those new users. So we have a inbuilt mechanism to do that. And then we have the automated user management action. So in this case, let's say creation, and users are being created in Active Directory on all the platforms, and those users can log in without any delay. So this is how the integration works. Just a very simple example. No, it's not the end of the session. Let me quickly jump into the tool and show you how the tool looks like if you're not familiar with the tool. So this is just my local instance I have here. So this is the first thing that you see when you log into the application. This is the dashboard. Gives you like a complete or quick insight of what is happening with my domain. So you can configure your domain in the domain settings here. Just add them, and then all your data will get auto-populated. Right? So your number of users, your number of computers, inactive computers, your logon related information, all of that. And quickly, I'll take you through all of the tabs because I want to take you to the most important one of today, which is the automation, and then templates, which I've mentioned few times in the sessions. I really want to talk about that. Now, management. So management operations. So in this management tab, it has all the management operations pertaining to users, computers, groups, contacts, mailbox, OU, file server, GPO, and so on, right? So we have single user action, and also we have predefined bulk user modification actions as well listed here, and similarly for the other objects as well. Coming to reports, more than 200 reports in all of these categories, and you can also schedule these reports, which will sort of be sent to your inbox every day. Let's say you as an IT administrator want to see how many users are being created or being added on a daily basis, right? Just to keep track of what is happening within your organization. Then we have a report called recently created users. You can list the users. You can see the users that have been created in the last 1 day or 2 days, depending on the interval that you want, and then have it sent to your inbox every day at a specific time. right? So that's the report scheduling capability on the top right corner. And similarly, you can do that for any report that you want. And we also have custom reports. Say these predefined reports are okay, they're great, but I want something else as well. Then you can create your own custom report, create your own query, add your own conditions, uh, specify which all data that I want to see in my report, and then you have your custom report at your fingertips. And Office 365, right? So I haven't configured an Office 365 account here. Let me quickly take you to the demo setup right here. So this demo setup is available online, and I will be sharing the link in the chat box. So in case you want to, if you're not familiar with AD Manager Plus and you want to try this tool, right, before or without even, if you want to try the 30-day free trial version of AD Manager Plus, you can go ahead and do that. Even before that, I just want to see what it looks like, what are the features that are there, then you can try the demo setup as well. Right, so coming to the Office 365 tab, we have the management as well as the report capability pertaining to Office 365, which are all listed here. So coming to reports, we have Office 365 users, inactive users, password related information, log on activity of users, again, groups related information, contacts, licenses, mailbox, OWA, and coming to management, there's reset password, block users, your a multi-factor authentication settings. You can go ahead and configure that. Your group management, right? So you had a question on group management, your distribution list. You can see that some of the bulk management actions are listed here. So you can go ahead and then check this out. This might be helpful for you. Right, so all of this is listed right under the Office 365 tab, and you can go ahead and try our demo setup in case you want to, see what all sub actions are supported. And this is an ongoing activity. We keep adding features to our, or especially our Office 365 section, because we want to sort of fully make sure that the users have to completely not rely on the admin center and instead just use one console to perform all your management actions, right? Coming to delegation, you're kind of delegating your actions to technicians. Whatever privileges you want to give, you can granularly give them, and you can define roles, whatever roles that you want, using, by creating a new role, right? Workflow is again going through a process and a mechanism where you can sort of define who has to review your request, who has to approve your request, and who can execute your request. You can add all of that here. The approvers, the reviewers, the executors can be added here, and you can customize the workflow based on the nature of your task. Be it user onboarding, you have a certain process, you can go ahead and do that. For deprovisioning, if you have a process, you can go ahead and do that, right? And coming to the most important topic, and in fact, the topic for today is automation, right? So how you can create a new automation. So this is where we'll be talking about how you can integrate your HRMS with your Active Directory tool, which is AD Manager Plus, right? So let me go ahead and show you how you can do that. Now, before that, let me take you to the admin settings, and that's where all the integrations, backend configuration has to be done. So if you click on admin and integrations, we have the integrations that are supported. And this is where today's session is going to be about: Zoho People, Workday, RT Pro, Bamboo HR, and the databases, MS SQL and Oracle. So you just click on any database, that any HRMS application you want, just enter your username, password, your API key, and your company ID, and then just click on test connection and save. And if you want to sort of map your data source and LDAP attribute, for example, in your HRMS application, your employee ID column would be listed in a certain way, and the employee ID LDAP attribute, which is the Active Directory language, has to be in sync, right, for the data to get automatically synced. So you can go ahead and map that. So that's just going to make it a lot more easier and no complications in case, when an automation is running. Right, so let me show you where you can go ahead and create a new automation. So if you click on automation task and policy, you have create users. I've selected users. Again, template, I will come back to that. And here, this is where you specify the input, whether you want the data to be fetched from a CSV, from an SQL, Oracle, or any of these HRMS applications. You select that, and since I have not configured, it says no configuration found, but it will be automatically fetched here. And you can set when you want this to be run, every day, or a weekly, or a custom report. So this you can specify to run at 9 o'clock every day. The tool will automatically check if there has been any data which has been updated. So this is a create users, right? So create users, has any new users been added to the HRMS application? And if so, then the automation will run for create users, and users will be automatically created in all these platforms instantly. And you can enable your notification, choose the template that you want to send it to. I mean, whatever content that you want, right? You can sort of customize your to field, your subject, your attachment type, whether you want it to be a PDF or a CSV file, so on. Customize the content. Everything can be done. So you can just click on edit and go ahead and then modify that. So similarly, for every action, be it create, be it modify, be it delete, you can customize your template accordingly, right? So once you do that, and you hit save, then every day at 9 o'clock, the tool will check for a new users in this application that you've configured, and be automatically created here, right? And since I have talked about templates for quite some time, I have to talk about templates right now. And let me tell you, template is you're going to be your user provisioning solution, because you just have to create a department specific template, or a location or a designation specific template once, and you can apply that template every single time when you are creating users in a specific department, designation, or a location, right? So first name, last name, all of these unique attributes, you leave it as empty. You can specify your location, your office, your container, which OU the users should belong to. Even set a common password, so you don't have to manually go ahead and do that. Just type a strong password and check user must change password next log on. Here you can specify the groups, which are groups these users should be a part of, the logon script, the profile path, the home folder, uh, any restrictions that you want to imply for certain computers, your logon hours, the contact attributes. So all of this, when you create, right, your title, department, company, manager, your address, your exchange mailbox, right? So just go ahead and then create your exchange mailbox store, your email alias, your storage limits for those users, terminal properties, Skype. Again, since I have not configured my Office 365 G Suite in the settings in admin, I do not have that option here, but there would be an option for Office 365 and G Suite as well. There you can configure your licenses, your groups, and all of that OUs and everything at one go. And you can just click save template, right? And coming back to the automation, you can go ahead and choose that template, whatever template. Now let's say you are creating users in the marketing department, so you can choose a template for marketing, and you can choose your location, your HRMS input, which is, for example, Workday, and then just run. So all those details will be auto-populated here, and you do not have to worry about going and provisioning all of those individual users' attributes again. So that's going to make your task even simpler. And similarly for modification as well, you can go ahead and set certain rules in templates, where you can choose if the department is marketing, then the reporting to will be this, your groups will be this, your contact attributes will be this, and so on. So every time a change is being triggered in the HRMS application, then you can go ahead and choose a template. For example, modify user by template, you can choose the template, just choosing a template here, and set your input as well, and your user modification process is going to be really simple, right? So whatever changes that's going to happen in your HRMS application will get automatically updated here, and it will also follow whatever details or whatever changes that you have specified in the template. So there is absolutely no room for errors, and again saves a lot of time. You don't have to worry about this. A tool is going to take care of all these actions, and also it will keep you informed with the help of these notifications as well, right? So that's how you can simplify the user lifecycle management by simply making sure that your HRMS application and your Active Directory tool is in sync, right? So this saves a lot of time. You also make sure that you're not giving any privileges that are more than necessary. You're sort of tracking everything that's happening. You have a record of all the actions that has been carried out. The automation here will list all the automations that has happened. All the scheduled automations will be listed here. And even when it comes to deleting a user, you can go ahead and create a deprovisioning policy. So let me show you a sample deprovisioning policy. You can choose your input as your Ultipro or Bamboo HR, and you can specify a deprovisioning policy, right? First, you disable users, and after 60 days, you delete users. This is a very simple and a standard no frills deprovisioning policy, but you can add any number of tasks you want. For example, after 10 days, I want users being moved to another OU. You can specify the OU. After another 10 days, you can sort of remove their licenses. You can go ahead and similarly add a set of policies. You can remove their groups. Again, this is just a sample deprovisioning policy that I'm showing. You can customize it in any way that you want. So I'm removing all the existing group memberships, and then you can update it. And you can specify the input in the automation. And let me quickly show you. So there'll be a delete users option right here. And here I can choose RT Pro, and this is what will happen, right? So you can either choose your policy, which is the deprovisioning policy that I just created, and you can set your input. So whenever a data is being deleted from UltiPro or being removed, then you can apply this deprovisioning policy that will sort of make sure that all these actions are carried out one by one based on the sequence, the time that you have set, and again, it'll be notified as well, right? So that's how simple it is. Now, I hope this was, so this brings us to the end of today's session. Now, before I end the session, I have just two questions to ask you, and I would be asking those questions in the form of a poll. Now, coming back to, I will be launching a first question. So this is just to understand if you're using AD Manager Plus, right? And how do you know AD Manager Plus, right? So I'm going to launch the first question. I hope you can see the first question on your screen now. How do you know AD Manager Plus? I will keep this question on for say 30 seconds or so, and then I will move on to the last question. So it'd be really helpful if you can pick the answer here. You're an existing customer of AD Manager Plus. You are, um, evaluating AD Manager Plus. Great. Thank you so much for answering. I'll move on to the next question. Right. Now, if you're evaluating AD Manager Plus, would you require our technical support to get in touch with you and who can assist you in the form of maybe a personalized demo or any of that? Then please let us know. Great. Thank you so much for answering our question. So I will be moving on to, so that brings us to the end of today's session. And I hope the session was useful. This was exclusively for our new release, the Ulti Pro and Bamboo HR application. Right. Right. So thank you so much for taking time off your schedule and joining us for our session today. Now I'll be available to take any questions that you may have. So please make use of the questions pane and do post any questions that you may have regarding today's topic or regarding the integrations in general. And you can also reach out to me. So I will leave my email address in the chat box. So it's megha.r@zohocorp.com. You can contact me as well regarding today's session, any other questions that you may have. So thank you so much for joining our session, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.